There's a combat and conflict ongoing in every second of Kalki 2898 AD. And there's about 10,800 of those, seconds that is, nestled between the majestic opening and the spooky, riveting post-credit scenes. And based on what we hear, Vijayanthi movies spent to make this film, we guess each of these seconds would buy a decent car in this country. And now that being the stakes, the conflicts are only obvious, be it in real, or for us the audience. The real conflict starts with our greatest epic, that of the Kurukshetra war, and then leading us to the dystopian world 6,000 years later. Of the unequal wrestle between haves and have-nots, characters fighting for personal ambitions and redemptions, myths versus science fantasy, or the regular dosage of rebels against the rulers. And then, there is this even bigger combat at real of distinct directorial vision versus typical fan service that the film toggles between, giving us a middling experience that equally excites and frustrates. Let us talk about the exciting factors to start with. Let us talk about where it all begins, in the vision of director Nag Ashwin as he imagines this connection between the dystopian fantasy and Hindu mythology. It requires both balls and brains to visualize and conceive something of such epic proportions, let alone execute it. While we won't disclose details of the story beyond what we gather from the trailers, let us confirm that Nag Ashwin doesn't play it safe at all, be it in this first film of the Kalki cinematic universe that is entirely invested in setting up the world and its primary players, be it in the mix of contemporary come classical spoken dialogues which sound jarring but make sense in the universe of this film, or be it in the fascinating end credits scene that establishes how creation and destruction are complementary in the grand scale of things, each serving a purpose in the cosmic balance as stated in the Gita, but not exactly favorable for our hero-worshipping movies. It is also in this theme of myths merging into futuristic science that subtle nuances of the film emerge out, whether it is the forgotten sculptures of God hidden behind dystopian pubs, whether it is this new world divided within complex Shambhala and Kashi as in the rule, rebel and religion, with the religion of righteousness being completely substituted by the religion of riches. Or whether it is about a mythological soldier holding hands with a computer-aided fighter from the future to help God return to the human world. This degree of concord between science and religion is a pioneering attempt in our cinema which must be applauded deservingly. Camera work by George Stoiljkovic and production design by Nitin Zihani Chaudhary of Tumbad fame lends voice to Nag Ashwin's vision. The visuals are stunning and at par with international blockbusters, and even though the Hollywood inspirations are obvious, the audacity and the appetite for risk of the makers of Kalki has to be lauded wholeheartedly. If for nothing else, watch the film at theatres for the climactic fight scenes, never seen before visuals for Indian cinema. Equally stunning are the Mahabharata sequences, even though the de-aging of Amitabh's Ashwatthama doesn't work that well for us. The dystopian Kashi, mythic Shambhala, or the utopian complex are intricately established, contributing to the necessary depth of the film that make you believe in this universe. And then comes the solid performances from the big guns. Kamal Haasan, ever at ease with makeup and prosthetics, is riveting in his limited screen presence, the biggest reason to queue up for the next installment of this new franchise. Shobhana as Mariam, the custodian of Shambhala, is so good, shining in equally in her scenes of emotion and action. Deepika Padukone, by now a pro at playing the mother of the Messiah, is effectively vulnerable. That walkout of the complex is perhaps the most memorable sequence of the film, the one you will remember for long. And then there's Amitabh Bachchan, and the film belongs to him, as the screen lights up every time he appears. When is the last time we felt so, that too in an ensemble project where he has been hamming his ways lately? This is the big B we want more of, and one cannot thank Nag Ashwin enough for creating this character for the octogenarian superstar. From looks to costume, towering presence to vocal silences, Amitabh aces it all, and thus in a film which almost entirely depends on scale and grandeur, the man pulls the camera close up to his face. But then, each of these strengths of the film somewhere also lead to shadows that frustrate. The novel themes and the engaging ideas needed more emotional build-ups that the film lacks considerably. There's hardly any depth to the characters apart from Ashwatthama, thus making you care little about what happens to them in the course of the film. Say, for Anna Ben's warrior Kyra, who comes, fights, succumbs as the film moves on without spending an iota of emotion over her. The magnum revelation of the climax needed some build-up across the length of the film, but instead, the film invests on Prabhas's repetitive bickering, amateurish comic relief, and a half-baked romantic angle with Disha Patani, who continues to play nothing more than an eye candy, be in present-day Goa or dystopian Kashi. All those of you who have already watched the film, think about the backstory of deception and fatherhood that the script has for Prabhas's Bhairava, and then think about the climactic reveal and wonder how well that backstory could have served if aligned to this reveal. Instead, it just serves for a cameo, that too a casually written one, adding to the array of the characters who appear more like afterthoughts rather than integral to the plot of Kalki. Think of Deepika Sumathi, who is rescued from the complex, but even between noble warriors, does the woman have choice and autonomy over her body? We wish the epic vision of Nag Ashwin and the team would also have guts to shed the cliches of Telugu cinema, which bring down the film considerably. We wish the intentional mix of comic and epic would have the right balance and not always aimed at firing in parallel. Be science or mythology, there's poetry in either of it, but in all the technical marvels of the film, that poetry is somewhere missing, apart from the pre-start credit and post-credit scenes. Prabhas, as the goofy bounty hunter Bhairava, lacks depth in writing. He shines immediately when the script provides him with purpose and intensity in the last 30 minutes. But otherwise, much like his unimaginative body armor suit, the characterization is stiff and derivative. The logic of better things to come would be lazy. Irrespective of all possible marvels that might be waiting for the character in upcoming installments, this as a film presented to the audience as a single creative piece needed to have its own arc, build-ups and closure. Much like Sashwata Chatterjee's Commander Manas in this film, even though the actor does not quite fit into this universe and thus doesn't come across as menacing. Nevertheless, even after such underwhelming hindrances, Kalki 2898 AD stands out for its craft and courage. It moves in directions that are very bold, especially for a movie that's looking to play to the widest audience possible. After all, it succeeds in doing exactly what it was likely designed to do, setting up an ambitious franchise backed by both myths and modernity, and makes us wait to watch more of it. Supreme Leader Yaskin, here we come.